Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Palm Coast Special Workshop. I'm calling this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. It's 3 p.m. We're in a community wing of Palm Coast City Hall. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a short moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please have a seat. Ms. Allison, if you could, please call the roll.
Of course. Mayor Norris?
Here.
Vice Mayor Panieri?
Present.
Councilmember Gombara?
Here.
And Councilmember Miller?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, ma'am. We're gonna start the show with public participation. Please remember the rules of the quorum. Don't say anything defamatory or incendiary. Please silence your phones or your mobile devices if you haven't already, and please feel free to step forward if you have public comments. Yes, sir.
Quick question. We're going to be able to interview the people after you talk to them about the position that's available?
Sure, we'll have public
Questions?
comments between. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
State your name for the record, please.
Chantal Pröninger, nice to see you all. I have a few things I want to mention. Living around the airport, we had those planes circling, and I already came before to talk about it. Today I noticed I didn't hear the noise, and a friend of mine said the noise was over the ocean. And I thought, if we can't get rid of the flight school, can we at least have them fly away from residential areas, like over the ocean? Is that something that the city can decide? Is that...
The airport is a county entity, ma'am. We have no control over it.
Yeah, but they fly over us.
I get it, but we don't have any control over it. It's a county airport, not a city airport.
All right, I'll try again. Now, the other thing is the building Belvedere Terminals Fuel Facility. I mean, I looked at that, and yes, it brings a lot of money for the city, but in light of past stories we've heard, and my understanding is all that fuel would come by train, right? Am I correct?
think that's the plan,
Okay.
ma'am, yes.
So in light of past stories where we had trail derail, and then even more recently we had fires that would burn houses but not trees. I mean, I just don't feel very easy about it. So I would ask you, when you decide if that's something you want the city to do, to think about that, remember that. And I've been wondering about why the city of Ormond Beach did not get that deal. What was it that they said is not for us? Was that a safety issue or not? And if that was a safety issue, can you look into it and consider it? My question is, should the profit bypass the resident safety? And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person for public comment? No one? Seeing no one come forward, bring it back to the dais. Anyone have any comments concerning the two speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, the question about whether we can determine kind of flight routes. My understanding is that once it's over a certain height, that's FAA. And so we have no jurisdiction there to kind of determine where someone can fly. That's it. I just wanted to clarify that.
Vice Mayor, you have something?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you're a candidate for the District 3 seat, could you move over to the front row on this side over here, please, so we have everyone grouped together? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. First two rows, that's fine. Okay, we got everyone corralled. It's basically going to work the same way it did on the last election. We'll bring you in alphabetically as listed on our documents here. You have 3 minutes to give your introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll have questions from the dais for you if there are any. I appreciate everyone's time and putting in your applications for the position. I think we had 3 that withdrew from consideration. One just contacted me a little while ago and told me that he was pulling out. So with that, is there any question from the dais? Anyone have any concerns?
Who was the one that just pulled out, Mayor?
Scott Pilliff, he
Okay,
pulled out.
thank you.
There's a conflict with his job. Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, so this session, is it going to be strictly for question and answers from the council, and then the public will have an opportunity at the end of the workshop?
How did they do it last time?
And
Because
then-
I couldn't sit through the last one, so how did they do it?
Yes, there was public comment at the very end of the meeting.
Not between, at the end?
No, sir.
Okay, that's how we'll do it this time. So everyone understand that? The chief of staff is going to sequester you in the back room. Please do not use your cell phones. I don't want you to have an unfair advantage. This is like a NCO of the year competition, not a promotion competition. So we're not sharing answers among friends, okay? With that being said, Mr. Mark Burton, you stay seated, sir. You stay seated. Everyone else, if you could gather your belongings and go back with the chief of staff, I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Okay, the first candidate in the queue is Mr. Mark. Oh, I'll give him a second. Okay, we have everyone removed from the room except for you, Mr. Burton. So, Mark Burton, please step up to the podium and give us a 3-minute introduction to yourself and why you're here.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. I'm new to Palm Coast. I've been here since last August. What I find about Palm Coast that really drew me to this place, this reminds me of what it was like when I used to live in Florida back in the early 70s and all the way into the 90s. I used to live in the city of Boynton Beach. I became very, very involved at that time. I was a licensed architect. I became very much involved with development and how we as a city could increase our tax base with having proper development and growth. Very, very similar to what we have here. The only difference between Boynton Beach and this area, Boynton Beach was limited to how far west they could go because past US 1 it wasn't very far. You were in the Everglades. You couldn't go any further. You could only go north or south. Whereas here we have a whole lot more room to do things. And I've been spending the last several months looking at what the city council is doing. And I'm quite pleased, although we've had some growing pains. We're only 25 years old. But what they've been doing has been something that has been of extreme interest to me. And one of the things that I saw that was quite interesting is how we're trying our best to increase our tax base by allowing more industrial development and commercial development. The perfect example is that fuel storage facility that came in there. I know that there are requirements of how much we can do for a bond issue by our city charter. I would think that would be something that the city council would want to talk about or think about in the future to expand that ability. Because when we're doing things like spending what, $500 million to expand water treatment facilities, that's a huge amount of money to spend. And one of the easiest ways to do it is with bonding. And if we're limited to only doing it the other way, it means that our tax base has to go up, and we can only tax so much with the property tax that the people pay here. The other thing is, I know that, Highway 100, I know it's a state road. We have to coordinate very carefully with the state on that because we're going to have to expand that probably to 6 lanes in the not too distant future as we expand going further out west. I was very, very impressed with the city council wanting to take that property that's just to the west of BJ's and make that into commercial as opposed to residential. Good idea, because this way it'll bring in more tax base. And I have worked not only as a licensed architect, but I've had several businesses. I worked in my dad's construction business where we did renovation work in Orlando back in the 70s and the 80s. And I'm definitely for growth, but for judicious growth and a way to pay for it as we go. And unless you have any other questions, I think I can get it done before the 3 minutes is over.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Just stay where you're at for a second. I'll bring it back to the dais. I would like to remind the council that all these positions on the city council are nonpartisan, so let's refrain from any type of political rancor. Sir, any questions from the dais?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Got a couple questions. First of all, thank you for applying. I appreciate it. Having a bunch of people apply gives us an opportunity to get somebody in that seat that will do great things for Palm Coast. So thank you, sir. First question I have is, we have a strategic action plan that kind of is a high-level goal setting for how we actualize the budget and how we fund our activities within the city. And so my question to you is what items would be on your strategic action plan?
Could you say that again? I didn't hear that last part.
I'm just asking, what would be your priorities for the strategic action plan that would help inform our budget, our ad valorem budget, our general fund?
My priorities would be to increase our tax base as much as possible and still have growth. People are going to move to Florida no matter what we do. That's why they call this the free state of Florida. So they're going to be coming here no matter what we do. So we have to do it in a way so we can pay as we go. And we have to figure out ways to have enough money so that we're not just relying only on property tax revenue, because if the property tax revenue increases so much, and if Governor DeSantis has any idea of trying to get rid of the property tax, he's going to have to do it with a value-added tax or some other tax. And we have to be able to make that done in such a way so that we can increase that revenue and help the development that's going to come no matter what we do. We're going to get it, because this, you have a city that's almost a blank canvas. I know it's been around for 25 years, and I know ITT did a great job laying out originally, but there's so much more room to do things, and if we do it right, then we can do things to make it very, very judicious. When I was the chairman of the Downtown Redevelopment Board in Boynton Beach, at that time, everything was moving out west, kind of like what it is right now. And the downtown was dying, and the downtown was right along the intercoastal. It was like the absolute perfect property to have, and people weren't going to it. So my board that I got appointed to did what we possibly could do to bring as much business downtown so we could level it out and increase the tax base. And we did. We had hotels coming down there, and we made more judicious use of the intercoastal roadway, and that's what I would want to do as a city council member, do the same sort of thing.
Gotcha, thank you. So my next question would be kind of a more general question. So on council, obviously, it would be 5 people with 5 different opinions about things. Can you tell me about your experience, working as a team, kind of coalescing ideas and moving forward to get things done?
Yeah, so I'm very, very much a team player. As I mentioned before, I've had several businesses, but I've worked with a number of companies. My last job that I had, call it a job, I owned an RV park. And I had employees that I had to work with. And I had to work with those employees on a daily basis because we were the largest RV park in our part of the state of Arkansas. And we had our ups and downs when people would come in. So I always had the team meetings where we had to work. My wife and I would split the work. She would do the inside, and I would do the outside. The outside was one that took a lot of effort to maintain the park on a regular basis. But before that, I sold software, security software for McAfee, another company that's now owned by Cisco called Splunk. And we always worked with teams. I would have a territory, and I would have people above me and people below me, that we worked together as a team to meet our quotas. And that's why, if you look at my resume, it has a lot of stuff on the quotas that we made. So working with team, that's extremely important to me. You have to know who the other players are so we can all work together for the common goal. And I'm not going to be one of these kind of guys that's going to go out there and say, it's all about me. No, not at all.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My first question is, as you're likely aware, we just had to raise utility rates to provide for infrastructure needs in our utility system. How would you have addressed that issue?
I would have looked, well, first of all, I think the city of Palm Coast, if I read correctly, has some of the best water in the state. And beyond the water, the major issues that we have are the water treatment plants, some of which are at capacity or getting close to capacity. And raising the rates, there's something that has to be done. Could we have spread it out a little bit longer? Possibly. Don't know if that's possible or not. Instead of having it, so much this year, then next year a bigger increase. But the increase, and I'm a retired person. I'm on a fixed income like many of the 35, 37% people in Palm Coast are. So I know exactly what it means when your bills keep going up. But with that being said, you have to raise with inflation. There's no way for us not to have increases in utilities. And I'm not for increasing utilities willy-nilly, because that affects the quality of life of this town. Palm Coast is a gem. It's actually, I can't believe I knew about this town, but I never went to visit Palm Coast until I moved here. And I'm so happy I did, because it's really, the city has done a great job so far.
What is your general position when it comes to policy making? So the way that you address policy making and how you feel you would be as essentially a legislature for the city?
Well, policy meetings are extremely important. So it's one of those things that I would, and if I understand your question correctly, when the city council is working with the city, is creating policy, the council members, I presume, meet together, discuss it, and have the pros and cons, maybe even have some city input if need be for those policies. And I think that's something that we have to have. We have to have transparency in what we do as best as possible, because, we are, in many cases, elected officials by the city, and we have to be transparent enough, because we have people here that want to stay here. They don't want to move someplace else. They moved here for a purpose, just like I did. I hope I answered your question.
You did. So when you say the city, do you mean the residents?
Excuse me?
When you say you would take input from the city, do you mean the residents, or do you mean the city as in staff? What are you referring to? Both. Okay.
When I used to work as chairman of the Downtown Redevelopment Board, I would work closely hand in hand with not only the planning and zoning department, but with the city staff, because the city staff would give the recommendations, because you can only know so much. So you have to rely on them. You have to rely on that team to give you the information. Then you work with your other council members or your other team members on the board, like I did, and we come to a consensus. And again, like I mentioned, it's not all about me. It's about everybody else that's on the board. We have to have some sort of consensus, and that's how we do it.
Thank you.
Anything else, Vice Mayor?
No, sir.
Councilman Gambaro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Byrne, just first and foremost, thank you for applying to serve your community by service here on the city council. So as someone who just went through this process several months back, I know what it's like, so really thank you. The first question I want to ask you is a little bit more direct. We've got big decisions coming up here in the next several months. One of them is hiring a city manager. So my question to you, sir, is what are the qualities that you would look for in the ideal city manager if you were to be appointed to the city council?
Well, the city manager, by its nature of its name, is going to be running the day-to-day business of the city. They have to be, first of all, experienced. That's extremely important, number one. And I know you guys have been going through great pains to find people that have that experience. But not only that, this is a growing city. This city is going to be a lot bigger in the next few years. So whatever city manager you get, they need to have experience with that kind of growth set. And this is not just slow growth. This is hyperactive growth. It's growing really, really fast. You got to be able to think on the fly quickly and come up with a consensus of how we can do this in a judicious manner so it doesn't hurt the rest of the town. And then you have to, again, as a city manager, you're going to have people working below you, the city staff. You have to be able to manage that. And you have to, as any leader in any organization, and Mayor Norris knows this coming from the military, you have to rely on the people below you, but you have to be able to give them the ability so they can make decisions that are informed decisions and give that information up to you so you can help the rest of the team with their planning, and then do that in such a way that it helps the decisions for the city, so how they grow. Did I answer that right?
You did. No, thank you, sir. And then my last question is, another big vote we have coming up, down the road is the passing of our comprehensive plan and the implications of that for our westward expansion. What are your thoughts on, you touched on it earlier, but what are your thoughts on our westward expansion and how the comprehensive plan plays into that?
Well, the comprehensive plan is something, when you set it, and I've been involved with this once before with the city of Boynton Beach and in Palm Beach County. When you do a comprehensive plan, it's basically a roadmap. You know you're going to make modifications over time because you can't think into the future how quickly development's going to happen. And when I lived in Palm Beach County, it was in the late 70s all the way up to the late 90s. We saw hyperactive growth like, I couldn't believe how quick it was. Because everybody was coming up from Miami all the way up to Dade County, Palm Beach County, excuse me, and now they just keep going up the coast. So the comprehensive plan is going to be one of those things, again, it's a roadmap, but it's going to be a roadmap that can be modified as conditions change. And I think the city council has to be able to be willing to do that, not to necessarily change the comprehensive plan willy-nilly. And as I mentioned earlier, I think what you guys did with the fuel storage facility, excellent choice, by far an excellent choice. I'm glad the city council approved that. I think that's going in the right direction. The other decision, allowing that property just to the west of BJ's, not to be residential, smart move, because we don't know, you guys probably don't, I don't know how long it's going to take before the state decides, okay, we're going to widen 100 to 6 lanes from 4 lanes. Good luck on that. It's whenever they decide to do it. And if you put more residential and you clog the roads, I live in Grand Landings. I already know how the traffic is, and I've only been here, going on 7 months? So I hope I answered your question.
You did, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Burton, I typically only give one question. This is my question. I'll give you a couple of moments to think about it. Give me an example of a point in your professional career where you were confronted with an ethical dilemma, meaning you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. So take a moment and think about that, and give me an example of a time in your professional career where you were confronted with an ethical dilemma and you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong.
I can use one sample when I used to have when I used to sell security software. I had a project which I was doing, I was working for McAfee at the time. I sold security software for about 10 years. And during that time, I was doing a project where we were selling a whole bunch of software for the EU, all these many different countries. And in that industry, we have middlemen. They're called resellers. And resellers will come in there and they take their money off the top and they just do their thing. In many cases, they do absolutely nothing. No value add at all. So I'm dealing with a customer. I'm trying to make the customer get what they need, that they want, they have the money for it, but they're now having to pay a whole lot extra money for resellers who do nothing, literally. They just take a big chunk of money right off the top, and now the customer has to go back to their board and say, we need more money for IT. So what that happened is I said the right thing is to help the customer. I reduced my costs considerably to hit to my personal income pocket so that the project could go through.
Okay, that's it? All right, thank you, sir. Any more questions from the dais?
No, thank you so much.
Mr. De Lorenzo, can you remind the rest of the candidates that all these positions are nonpartisan and we don't need any political rancor? Thank you, Mr. Burton.
Just wait outside.
You'll go back in the back with the rest of the group. Thank you, sir. And if you could, please tell him Mr. Douglas Courtney is next in the queue.
He's going to have a seat for his interview.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you all today?
We're fine, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for making the accommodations for the time.
Yes, sir. You'll have 3 minutes to give a brief introduction, and then we'll have questions from the dais, please.
Well, thank you. My name is Dr. Douglas Courtney. I have been a Palm resident here in Flagler County for 27 years. I have been a resident of Palm Coast for 25 years. I was technically the first employee hired by the city of Palm Coast. I was a city clerk. I signed a lot of the documents and everything that began the city of Palm Coast. I have been active in the promotion and the use of and the facilities of the city of Palm Coast ever since then. I take a special pride in the city and what it's doing. I personally want to let you know that I feel strongly that the city administration is one to be proud of. It could have gone a lot of ways, and they remain professional, and I appreciate that. I have a lot of background in social services that I work with. I have a lot of background in working with various organizations. I do a lot of volunteering, anywhere from the from the Women's Domestic Abuse Center, all the way up to trying to keep a pool open when we have to. So I've been to a lot of city council meetings. I've been to a lot of county commission meetings. I've been to a lot of school board meetings. I've been to city meetings in Flagler Beach, Palm Coast, Beverly Beach, of which I was also the town clerk there, and I served as Marineland as well. So I've been all over this county and know quite a number of people. My background as a doctorate is information systems technology. It has a management in that. I also have my MBA, and geez, what else can I think of? There's a whole line and list of things that I've done, so I don't really know where to go with that. I'd be better if I just answered your questions, so if you don't mind, why don't we just go right straight to that?
Yes, sir. Councilman Miller, you have anything?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So first, I just wanted to thank you for applying. We really appreciate you putting your name in the hat in terms of service for this community. My first question is that the City of Palm Coast has a strategic action plan, and that helps, and that's high-level goals that help inform the budgetary process. And so my question to you is, what would be your priorities for the strategic action plan?
What I'd like to do is take care of what we built. Too many things that we've done in the past, and a lot of things that I've seen that I don't quite agree with the City of Palm Coast, is that we're embracing a lot of the growth, which I don't have any objections to, but we also have to take care of the structures that we have here. We need to ensure that what we have is also taken care of. The things that attracted the growth, the things that got people to be here, are the facts that we've always taken care of and made the city look well and taken care of the things here. We have to make sure that the swales are taken care of. We have to make sure that the roads are paved. We have to take care of what we own and what we're doing right now, as well as making sure that that's still available for future growth. So that's one of the things I believe in.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then my next question would be, so as you know, working on a board requires working together with different opinions and trying to find compromise so that we can move forward with policies and things that can move the city forward. And so that involves kind of working with others that may have differences of opinion. So what's your approach to that, and how do you work with others?
Well, I've been a manager, I've been a business owner, owned 5 businesses, been a manager in a number of things. One of the things I've learned quite often is that if you don't work together, you don't get anywhere. If your house isn't united, we don't move, and if the house is divided, we fall. So what I deal with and what my management situation is, the first thing is to try to listen to what you're saying. Sometimes my interpretation of what you're saying is wrong, and I have to ask you again, because I put my own biases in and my own special biases in based on where I lived and how my experiences. So I have to ask, and I have to understand, and I have to listen to you, and I have to listen to what you say. In turn, I have to repeat to you what I have said, what you have said, to make sure that we agree that that's what you said. When we both agree, then the discussions can take forward as whether or not we wish to make a compromise on that issue or not. That's how I'd approach it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you and good afternoon. You said that you want to prioritize focusing on what we currently have. How would you balance that with also investing in the future of Palm Coast?
What I found in the various places I belonged is the sprawl is bad, but not growing is bad too. You can't have no growth and you can't have extreme sprawl. Everything cannot be just going to head and grow, and everything cannot be, no, we aren't going to grow at all. There has to be a balance between the two. So when I sit there and say that we need to grow, I do agree that we need to grow. We can't be apathetic about it and everything, but it has to be controlled, and we have to decide as a group how that wants to be controlled. We can't allow sprawl. We can't do that. We have to decide exactly how we want to move forward on that. We have to decide how we are going to pay for that. One of the biggest problems that people have when they sit and grow and when they allow growth and everything like that is they forget that even though we still have to take care of what we have back here, we're going to have to take care of what's being built. After the developers are gone, after everything else is there, we have to take care of that also. And this is one of the problems you get into when you have to deal with water, which we're having to deal with. We're having to deal with roads and all these other things. Is we have to judge how we're going to take care of this on the whole end. Developers obviously don't like to pay in impact fees. Who does? Even the buyers that go to the houses don't want to have to pay impact fees. But on the same token is that we have to make sure that after the developer's gone, after the houses are there, we have the ability to take care of those roads and those things that have to be taken care of. The tax rates we charge our fellow citizens in here, including the ones that we're going to have to pay with them, have to take that into account. It's a constant battle. It's a constant argument back and forth. It is a constant decision of what we're going to do. There's no easy answer to that. Okay, this is one of the things that we have to weigh and evaluate together. Do we want to add 5,000 houses to the west end of Palm Coast? If we're going to do that, how are we going to pay for it? How many roads is going to bring it to us? When those roads are built and the developer's gone, how are we going to take care of them? What's the sewage system going to be like? Are we going to be able to put in and take care of the water for that before we do it? And if we're going to do that, how are we going to pay for all that in the end without having to have to force the citizens that have already been here to pay for the expansion itself? Each one of these things have to be evaluated. I happen to know that you've got 2 or 3 people on staff here that are very good at answering those questions and get deeply involved in it if you ask them the right questions. So each one of those things has to be answered, and each one of those things have to be asked, and you have to be very active in doing it. I have no objections to growth, but the growth has to be controlled, and this is a group here that has to control it.
As a policymaker, though, I want to drive down a little bit further on that because I want you to get a little bit more specific. What are 2 things from a policy perspective you feel would help in focusing on current infrastructure while also making sure we're investing in the future of Palm Coast?
You want to know what the difference, I'm going to ask you the question, try to repeat it. You want to know what 2 factors I want to have with helping with the growth of Palm Coast plus taking care of what we already have. Is that what
are 2 things you think that we should do as a governing body that can help those 2 things? Yes.
On taking care of the city of Palm Coast, I think that we need to invest more into the facilities and the people that have those facilities that take care of it. I am not pleased with the amount of people that's saying, for something, the swales and taking care of the swales. The swales have a lot to do with the drainage of the water and everything in the city of Palm Coast, and the swales have a lot to do with the flooding we experience in the high flooding areas. I feel that we need to invest more, specifically drilling down into that, into having more people involved in the swales. That's about as specific as I can get on that one right now. The second area that I think that we need to do for the growth end on it is I think that we need to have more detail on exactly what the growth is and how they're going to build it. I want more details of what's being built. I want to know what it's going to look like. And the reason for that is I don't want to sit and look up and find out that we have row houses on one of the roads and, 2,000 people living in a 1 mile stretch of road. And we need to know what's going to be in there, how it's going to be there, and what it's going to look like. Councilman Holland was famous for holding up an entire redevelopment situation until he got the exact side of frontage that he wanted to have. He was very vicious that way, but the same thing applies to this too. We have to get what we want. We want the growth, but we want our growth. Does that tell you what you need to know?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Vice Mayor? Councilman Guerrero?
Dr. Courtney, sir, just want to say thank you for being willing to apply to serve our city on the city council. My first question is, we're getting ready to hire a new city manager, and it's real simple. Just, what are your thoughts and qualities of an ideal city manager that you would be willing to potentially vote for or consider?
I have specific thoughts on that. This city is getting big. We're going to have about 100,000 people if we haven't reached that already. We are the second largest city in Northeast Florida. Most people don't realize that. We got a lot of people moving in, a lot more people want to move in. We need the quality of the city manager that represents that. We need somebody that knows how to handle a $430 million budget. What we need really is experience. We need a lot of person that has the ability. I know that 3 of you came back from Tallahassee, and congratulations on what you've done, and hopefully it all comes bear fruit. But we need a city manager that can pick up a phone and has a contact. We need a city manager that can reach out to somewhere else and knows where to go to get that information. We need experience. We're past, I believe, being the city that teaches somebody else how to be a city manager and then they move on. It's our turn to get the city manager that has the qualifications and the experience to do the job we want them to do. We don't need to teach the city manager anymore. They need to help us, and that's my specifics, what I'm looking for.
Thank you, sir. My second question is, and I think the Vice Mayor touched on some of the growth questions, and you answered those. Again, upcoming, we have a review of the comprehensive plan. What are your thoughts about comprehensive plans and how they're applied as we continue to grow?
I like the idea of a comprehensive plan, but more often than not, it's sort of like the old saying on one of the movies, it's more like a rule than an actual code. People don't actually, there's way too many often, there's too many variables and too many variations given to the comprehensive plan and zoning. We go through and make a lot of plans and put things together, and then too often within about 2 or 3 months after that, well, we have another developer come in and he has a better idea for it and he wants to do this. We're making the things that we want to do. We need a guideline. We need goals. We need to know where we're going. But we need to make the comprehensive plan and follow the comprehensive plan more so than we generally do as city council. One of the problems we have with comprehensive plans is, I love y'all, but we all aren't going to be here to see that whole thing through. Other city councils are going to follow us. The best thing that we can do at this point in time is to create a situation or to create a characterization, I should say, that we want to follow the city plan. We put time and energy and effort into it. This is where we want it to go. There will be variations. We did not make the perfect plan. Nobody does. And there's things that's going to have to be changed. But once we want to make those change with what we have decided in our minds that we want it to be, and can we work within that plan to make what happens. I don't want to see another road that nobody can go down without going through 17 red lights and stoplights just to get from point A to point B. We need to make sure we have what we want to have. Palm Coast is a great city. Palm Coast is a good city. Palm Coast has got great people in it. We have to rise to the occasion to meet those expectations.
Thank you, sir. Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Courtney, I only have one question for you, and I'll give you a moment to collect your thoughts on it, okay? Mm-hmm. I want you to tell me about one experience in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma. And by that, I mean you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. So think about that for a minute and give me an example where you were faced with an ethical dilemma where you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong in your professional career.
That is a good question. I would,
Just one example, sir.
my mind keeps going back to when I owned a business, and I was in a city that was predominantly white, and it was, not only predominantly white, but decided that it wanted to be predominantly white. And its issues with the community, having minorities in the community do the extra work and everything, was against it. I had an opportunity to hire the first female and the first black African-American person to work at my business, or not. And I was pressured into not. And this was 20, 30 years ago, so the times were much different than they are now. And the ones wanting to not were much more stronger than they are now. And I thought about it, and I gave it consideration, and I hired the first female in that position, and I hired the first black in that position. And as a matter of fact, 2 months later, I had the second and the third. And for me, that was doing something that was right, ethically right, and I needed ethically just, but at the time, people didn't think was right to be done. And that's the one I go back to.
Thank you, sir. That's a good answer. Anyone else? Anything else? Thank you for your time, Mr. Courtney.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Courtney. Next in the queue is Mr. Ferguson. Thank you, Mr.
You
Courtney.
wanted us to wait for you?
Yes, sir. You can go back and wait.
All right.
Talking to them again after.
We'll bring them all back in after we're finished with the interviews.
Sit there and then, goodbye.
Tell them the next steps after. Good afternoon, Mr. Ferguson. Okay, we're going to give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself, give us your basic background, and then we'll have questions from the dais. So
Okay.
go right ahead.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Mayor, council members. I feel a little different being on this side of the dais than sitting up there. It's a little nerve-wracking, a little bit. I don't know why. I've done this before. I first want to recognize my wife. She's in the audience, and without family support, this isn't a good idea to get involved. People ask me, why do I want to do this? Well, I'll tell you. Been married for almost 52 years, have 4 daughters, 4 son-in-laws, 10 grandchildren, and that's very rewarding life. I really don't need much more. But I love Palm Coast, and I loved it from when I lived in Jacksonville, and 42 years in Florida, Northeast Florida. I got a really good feeling for what Palm Coast is and how unique a place it really is. So my interest in contributing on the City Council in 2025 is really geared towards making an impact and knowing that I can do the job. I've served in the past. This building that we are in, I had a stake in deciding to build it. It was controversial. So it's not an easy job to be sitting up there. So I applaud you for taking on the risk and the pain and the reward of being up there. So, but the things that have driven me are watching Palm Coast change. I mean, I came down here to retire because I worked hard my whole life. But, retirement, you can only play golf so often. And I really feel as though this city is special, and with the recreational amenities and so forth. So the reason I want to get involved is I think I know what the city needs. I think the aged population, what their needs are. I've watched the younger population, people raising families. My grandkids played at Indian Trails, Little League Baseball. I was tempted to wear one of their hats today just to prove to you that I have some real attachment here. So I realized if I were sitting up there, I would be asking me, why do you want to do this? Well, I feel prepared. I feel motivated. I'm energetic. I'm healthy. I work out every day. And I've been watching. People may wonder, where has he been the last 10 years? Well, I've been a SCORE volunteer for small business for 10 years. And I've been watching these city council meetings on YouTube. And I'm very interested in the water. I'm interested in the new city manager process. And I'm interested in the recreational amenities that we preserve them for the long haul.
Thank you, sir. Bring it back to the dais. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So you just touched on probably some things that will follow with my question. My question's about the strategic action plan and what your priorities would be for that to inform our budgetary use of the general fund.
Yeah, I'm all about economic development. I have prepared a packet of information about who I am and what I've been doing, not only here, but prior in Jacksonville. And I actually interviewed Craig McKinney as a candidate for economic development. So I think I know what the city can do. I'm encouraged by the projects that are now being made public, the Synergies, the Magellans, the Belvederes. And as far as strategic action, we need jobs. And we've needed jobs since 2012 and probably before that. But we've needed them more today than we did back when I was a councilman 10 years ago. So secondly, I'm interested in that we get our water treatment and our wastewater treatment issues resolved. I'm glad that we are making progress in that regard. And I'm interested in smart growth. I don't like us plowing fields and not building for years. I don't like that. I looked at the population numbers, and I think 4,000 is the maximum we've added in the last 10 years. So we clear land, but we don't build that many houses. We build, I don't know how many, but for a population, it's a balancing act, and I don't understand the process as to why you clear and then not build for 10 years, whatever, but that's of interest to me.
Thank you for your answer. The second question I would have is, as you know, working as part of this council takes compromising with differences of opinions and things like that so that we can move forward with kind of a unified front in terms of policy. How can you describe how that works for you, working in teams and trying to...
I'm smiling as you're asking the question because having raised 4 daughters, I have a lot of compromise in my body. I've worked with people who I've agreed with and I've argued and lost battles, and it's just a way of getting things done. You can't always get your way. You can't always get what you want, even though you work hard at it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. First, congratulations on raising a beautiful family, and thank you for your willingness to serve. I know you served back on City Council previously, and you're currently on PLDRB, correct?
I served from 2012 to 2014 by appointment, yes.
And you're currently on our PLDRB, right?
I'm currently...
Are you on our PLDRB currently?
The planning board?
Oh, I'm on the planning board, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
There's a little echo in here, plus I don't have my AirPods, and so...
No, that's okay.
For the last 2 years, I've been on the planning board, yes.
Okay, so as a member of the planning board, you have engaged in policy making and helped to shape our city over the past couple years. What is the process that you engage in when you make decisions or when you have made decisions as a member of our planning and development board?
Well, I've been schooled in the rights of property owners. process dictates that if they follow the letter of the planning requirements, that you are required to honor those facets of the planning process. However, recently there was a recommendation to approve a storage facility, and my vote was the deciding vote to deny the application. So apparently the media thought that was newsworthy. So it's not always a free ride for the developers.
And I can appreciate that, and I did read about that story. I also looked up your voting record while on PLDRB. And I'm curious, when you say that developers and property owners have rights, you're absolutely correct in that. But are you willing to push back a little bit when a developer or a landowner comes before council and wants to do something that is maybe not in the best interest of the city, even if they have the right to do it?
Yeah, that's a touchy area. Certainly judgment and discussion and analysis is required to make a prudent choice. You know, I have been involved in several projects that have been approved out in Sawmill Lakes. Those projects were entitled 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to say you can't build when they were entitled to do it, even though, you know, the strain on city services perhaps are fire, house close by, et cetera, water, whatever the ancillary effects of developing. But, you know, that's an example of one where pushing back wouldn't probably make a lot of sense.
Okay, so then my last question is, how would you balance property rights with smart growth?
I would look at this business of when you clear land, having some timetable for when you can realistically develop that land. I mean, I won't say I cry when I drive past areas where we've been clear-cutting areas, and who knows when those plats of land will be developed. Meanwhile, you're looking at a bunch of dirt, idle. So I would push back on that type of development in a general sense.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your Vice Mayor, Councilman Gambaro.
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you for your service on the City Council, and thank you for your continued service on our planning board and your willingness to serve again on our council. So my first question to you, sir, is, you know, what are your thoughts? What are the qualities that you look for in an ideal city manager, given that we're going to be faced with that decision here very soon?
Yeah, I've looked at the 5 candidates that you've narrowed the field down, Mr. Smith and the lady from Newark, double name, Viveros, I believe her name is, and there's a Mr. Reese, and there is a public works guy that's resume looks pretty good. You know, I'm not here to promote one or the other, but I think you've got a collection of candidates who could fill the role that's needed. In all deference to Ms. Johnston, I laugh because when she was in her former role of recreation, whatever she was, the title, she put a medal around my wife's neck at the senior games, and we have a picture of that. So I thought that was, you know, I don't know what Lauren will be doing afterward if there's a new city manager, but I have a soft spot for Lauren in my heart, so.
Thank you, sir. And my second question is another important review that this council has continued to pursue is the approval of our comprehensive plan. What are your thoughts about that comprehensive plan and how it, you know, influences and lays out our westward expansion?
I'll be honest, I didn't hear every word because of the acoustics in this room.
Okay, sir, no problem.
The westward expansion.
So the first part of it was, what are your thoughts of the comprehensive plan? And you've reviewed it as part of our planning board. And then what are your thoughts on westward expansion?
Yeah, I participated in the preparation of the comprehensive plan. In fact, I was asked to add the economic development component, which I believe is a new wrinkle to the economic plan, or to the comprehensive plan. And, you know, I realized the legislature gave a bunch of money to build the bridge over the railroad, so I think there's a need to work on that and develop that land in the best interests of the community. So leaving it at that point, I guess you'd say I'm in favor of the western expansion.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, I'm going to give you one question, and I'll give you a moment to collect your thoughts, okay? This is dealing with ethical dilemmas, okay?
It deals with
Ethical dilemmas, finding yourself in an ethical dilemma. And what I'd like you to do is think of a time in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma where you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Think about it for a second and give me an example of some time in your professional career where you had to make a decision, choosing the hard right over the easy wrong.
I'm 73. There's been a lot of examples I could refer to. The first one that came to my mind was when I was employed in Jacksonville in 1983. The HR person said to me, "You're going to fire that guy." I said, "I am?" He said, "Yeah, he's no good." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Well, why don't you fire him?" And he said to me, "No, you fire him." I said, "Well, if he doesn't perform, I'm going to give him a shot." And it was an ethical dilemma to override the HR guy because I was a rookie coming out of new hire, and the HR guy, I don't know if he knew me or whatever, but that was an ethical dilemma in my point of firing the guy without having any data. And has nothing to do with any references of what else we've been talking about. But that's my reply, first one.
So did you fire him or keep him?
No, I kept him, and I moved him to Dallas to get him away from the people who were wanting me to get rid of him, and he actually performed well. And he moved on and got promoted in another job and has remained a contact for me since the mid-'80s, so I feel pretty good about that.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your response. I think, anything else from the dais?
Just thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Excuse me. I prepared this because it adds to the information about my candidacy, which may be relevant to your decision-making. I would like to give it to the clerk, if
Yes,
that's okay?
Yes, sir, feel free to.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Flanagan.
Good afternoon.
We're going to give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll have questions from the dais, okay?
Yes.
So whenever you're ready to begin.
Thank you. So my name is Michael Flanagan. I live at 10 Point Doral Court in Palm Coast. I've lived here for a little over 5 years, but in those 5 years, I followed through with what I've done where I came from before, which is to find ways that I can become not only a part of the community, but a productive member. So when I got down here first, I became a captain of the Neighborhood Watch. We're very fortunate to have a very good police department. We have a low crime rate, but still, neighbors watching out for neighbors, not just for legal reasons, but for health reasons, is important. From there, I then moved into becoming a board member of the CDD over at Grand Haven. So I'm very familiar with the Sunshine Law, all the things that we have to work in to make sure that we're properly not only representing our constituents, but legally following through on what our job responsibilities are. We handled about a $4 million budget, and we handle all of the infrastructure. City handles the water and sewers, but streets, stormwater management, hurricane controls, amenities, all of that is ours. When I was up north, one of the things that I worked on was about not only the school board to make sure that we had the right numbers of school support staff, but also that we had proper traffic patterns. And then I also worked with the small business units to make sure that we were able to recruit and retain businesses in a downtown that we renovated and was able to build not only for a shopping area, but also eating and enjoyment. Down here, as I continue to try and become more of a member of the community, I went into the Palm Coast Citizens Academy. and has a chance to meet with all of the fine folks that run our departments. And it's really interesting that enough folks, you guys do a great job with the website, and there's a lot of great information in there. So whenever folks come to me and say, well, how come? I just point them to the URL. What I find with the departments is that they don't tout their value. They tout what they do and the importance of what they do for us, but the value of what it does for us as a community, I think, could really help. What I'd like to do, and hopefully you will invite me to become part of your team, is to continue working with you as we see Palm Coast evolve, see the challenges that we have overcome, and continue to represent our constituents to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're going to bring it back to the dais. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to first start off by thanking you for applying and applying to serve your community. My first question involves the strategic action plan. So the strategic action plan is a high-level goal setting or priority list that kind of informs how our budgetary process will work with our general fund. And so funds are kind of allocated based on those priorities. So my question to you is, what would be your priorities for this strategic action plan going forward?
That's a great question. I mean, we're hit with a lot of concerns our constituents bring up to us, whether it be flood, water, traffic. When I went through the Citizens Committee and I looked at what the action plan is, you folks have already been hit with it several times. And to me, it's water safety is the top thing on my side, which then, as I think some of you have talked about, how do we work with our developers so that we are able to bring forward the water as well as the sewer? The other ones, I have to admit, I would need to study more because and meet with the department heads, because to me, what I read versus what you have a chance to talk with people and really hear what is behind the scenes would have me give you an opinion today that is not fully informed. But water and traffic and development definitely fit in there. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then my second question is regards to working as a council. In order to vote on some of these issues that we have up here, there has to be some compromise, some give and take, some discussion. And so my question to you is what is your style and how do you work in those situations?
Collaborative. The CDD board runs exactly the same way as the city council does. There's 5 members. You're running by the sunshine laws, and each member's vote is of the same percentage, so to speak. But you don't get anywhere by beating people over the head. You've got to listen to what everyone's needs, what their thoughts are, and then hold your opinions, forward, but don't make them the single point in which you're going to push for a decision. So compromising, it's a nasty word. People don't like to hear it. But I think that when you're looking at big problems, you've got to give on what your ultimate demands are so that the city benefits the best.
Thank you for your answer. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As a board member of the CDD for Grand Haven, you just said that you often you would have to, as one of your duties, manage the budget. How do you manage the budget while not trying to raise fees and things like that on the residents of Grand Haven?
Well, I think it goes back to the question asked earlier around the strategic plan. There's the operational budgets that you have every year. You know what that's going to be. You can kind of project with using some fact-based cost analysis of what fuel and other things are going to cost. What we did was look at those things. What are staffing costs? What are health costs? What are asphalt costs? And, propane costs, all these different things, electric, and make the decisions of, well, we'd love to have, big thing in Grand Haven right now is we need more pickleball courts. It's a big push. And our pushback is that, well, we also need to repave part of Waterside Parkway. The money that we put into pickleball courts is going to be used by maybe 100 people versus the money we put in for repaving Waterside Parkway, which is going to service the entire community. To me, that's the way that we looked at how the budget needs to be rationalized. You can't not increase costs because salaries need to go into commensurate with our areas around us, so we lose people. We have no control over what propane costs or electric costs are going to be. But all those areas where we can hold back and say, wow, I'd love to build a new building, it's not the best for the community. So we did a lot of debate amongst the board members. We leaned heavily on our operations and our management staff to give us numbers, because while I love to be soft and feely and show my heart, the big part at the end of the day is, what are the numbers? We can't drive numbers higher than what the people can afford. A lot of the folks in Grand Haven in particular, like we see in Palm Coast, are retirees, fixed base incomes. We've got to be able to take that into consideration. We do that every year. So to me, it's prioritizing, looking at the budget, realizing what people can afford, and listening to, because we always have these meetings like this, asking the constituents, what is it that you actually have to have? And listening to them.
How do you balance that, and how do you get your ear to the ground, so to speak, when we have 107,000 residents? And for those who, scroll next door and Facebook and things like that, it's very easy to get wrapped up in what social media says versus what those who aren't posting on social media all the time say. So how do you balance that and really get an idea, or how do you feel like you get an idea of what your residents want?
Well, it's easier when you have only 5,000 people versus what the population of the city is. The way I like to work with it is, first of all, you have my email address and you'll have my contact information. So from a constituent perspective, you guys, we're hired by our constituents. So if they want to talk to their employee, they should be able to. You can't do that 24 hours a day. So the other part is I lean on the departments to hear what they're being asked, the complaints that they're registering and responding to. Social media is an interesting beast because it's not a controlled beast, but it's a good place to kind of keep a finger on what people are thinking. And it's not always good and it's not always bad. But to me, as I said earlier, the website's a great informational piece. When I look at and I am a member of a lot of Palm Coast Facebook and other things, and it's interesting, the part that I try to contribute is to point people to the places where actual facts are, rather than buying into the city council's not doing your job. How come you're not taking action on these things? To me, I point back to the documents that you produce, that the websites that have the information, and to me that's how. You can't work 24 hours a day, but those are some of the ways that I try to make sure I listen to what the people that hire us want.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's it. Vice Mayor? Councilman Gambaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And thank you for applying to serve our city on this council. So thank you very much. My first question to you is, we're getting ready to hire, a new city manager. What are the ideals? What are the qualities that you look for in a new city manager, understanding the size and complexity of our city?
Wow. First is the background of the person. I want someone that's got experience in the public area, but also someone who has a business background. Someone that understands that the departments all work for the city people, but they're responsible for delivering. And you have to be able to work with those leaders in those departments to make sure when you're coming to the board with recommendations, that you can substantiate what those recommendations are in a manner that addresses the public side, the people side, but equally the budget side. And be able to then manage to the expectations of the community, but the direction of the board. And the history of the individual should be such that they've grown. They weren't just hired out of college or from someplace into that. I'm looking for someone that's had feet on the streets, that's run the departments, that has responsibility for budgets, that understands who they work for, and the power that they have to help the board understand complex answers to complex questions.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So my second question is, we're also in the process of reviewing and finalizing our comprehensive plan as we look towards expanding towards the western part of the city. Do you have any thoughts on the comprehensive plan or westward expansion in general?
I like the simple questions you ask. They're so short. So there's a couple of things that I've already talked about. We know that safe water and sewer are going to be a difficult part that we need to address quickly for those areas. How do we work with the developers to make that happen? And how do we work with our state constituents up in Tallahassee to make sure that we get the support that we need to be able to grow that area? Another part, which I found surprising when I started trying to work in the community, was as you go west, the access to internet and high-speed entertainment and business quality internet is very, very spotty. And so when I look to recruit businesses, when I did up north, the things you want to look at is, okay, how am I going to get traffic through? And by traffic, I mean people that are going to buy, people that are going to, be responsible for working at the areas. What are my tax bases? What am I expected to contribute? And what are the things that the city is going to help me so I can grow and continue to be there for 20 years? Those are things I'd like to see as we look to expand west. Then you get into roads, and then you get into fire and police. Those are pieces that I'm not going to claim to be the expert on that. I want to talk to the chiefs in those areas. I want to meet with, and you can't do it, you can do so much as a representative, you got to do things as a board. And that's part of what we'd have to understand is, okay, who's going to take a leadership in this role? It might be you, it might be me, but someone needing to work in certain areas. So when we come back to the city manager with recommendations, or not recommendations, sorry, you can't do that as a board. You could do findings and say, here's what we think. So those are sort of things when I look west. And then, of course, it's the retention of our great ecological infrastructure. I mean, when I came to Grand Haven, or to Palm Coast, the thing that I was like, wow, I can get to the beach. I can actually stop and go down to the ocean. As soon as you get to Ormond and you go south, forget it. You get up to St. Augustine, same problem. And I think that as we look west, one of the things that we need to entice businesses around is like, we don't have ports, but we have great infrastructure. We've got a really good beach area. We've got places that we can entertain you, and you're close to a lot. So I'd like to see in the west area how we can do more of, but of course is what ITT has already set in place of what we can do. So I don't know what all those are yet. I'd like to see what we can do to attract more businesses.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, that's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Flanagan, I'm only going to give you one question, okay?
Sure.
And I'm going to give you a second to think about it, to collect your thoughts. Is concerning ethical dilemmas, okay? And I want you to think about a point in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma and you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Again, think about it for a minute, and it's concerning being confronted with an ethical dilemma. I want you to tell me about a time in your professional career where you were faced with a decision where you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong.
Unfortunately, in the positions that I had and held, they were multinational senior positions in big companies. And when you're working on, $100 million, $300 million projects, people approach you on ways that you can make their life easier. And I've been approached on ways that I could have bonuses passed my way. I could have considerations around housing passed my way. I was raised by an Irish father and a Catholic mother. A lot of yelling. But the big part is, at the end of the day, if you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm happy with you, I trust you, then you don't have anything worth for yourself anymore. So every time that I've been approached, and I've been approached in a advisory capacity to the governments, the city governments I worked with up north, by developers, and the easy thing is no. The hard thing is then, what do you do with that no? And I've gone to legal counsel and had action taken against people, both in business as well as with city government, because if they're coming to me, they're coming to other people. And I want to put a stop to it. So that's the way I answer it. At the end of the day, if you can't look in the mirror and say, I'm happy with you, you need to stop something.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And you can go back with the rest of the group. We'll continue on with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Anything else
Board.
from the dais? I'm sorry. Anything else?
No, just a thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Ms. Manfrey. We will give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself or any of your background, and then we'll come back to the dais for questions, okay? So whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Okay, give me a second. Excuse me, I'm coming off of having a bad cold. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Cornelia Downing-Manfrey. I'm going to give you a little past, present, and future of my vision for the city, the council, and what my capabilities are to offer to all of you. I'm a resident of 25 years. I'm the wife of former Sheriff Jim Manfrey, married 41 years. Our 3 children, Catherine, Alec, and Barrett, graduated from FPC 05, 07, and 15. They attended NYU, Georgia Tech, Duke, UVA for a master's, and now master's U.S. Navies. This gives you an idea of the good education that we get from Flagler County as something we can boast about to businesses. My community involvement involved 5 years as the School Advisory Council Chair for FPC, board member of KinderVision, Family Life Center, and also 10 years of the Flagler Symphonic Society. Unfortunately, we had to close that. My career has expanded over 40 years, the first 20 years with Fortune 100 companies in New York, American Express, Citibank, UA Theaters, Dunkin' Donut, Baskin Robbins, all companies that hired me for my business acumen, my capability of analysis of business needs, employee forecasting, and site selection. Lastly, with financial forecasting, there were multiple factors that went into each brand that I represented: the type of business, location, demographics, and people's needs. The present today, Palm Coast is critically in need of additional commercial industrial job creation. For the last 25 years, I've worked in bringing companies in. Lowe's, Publix, Truist, Kohl's, oversaw the development of City Marketplace and Roma Court, and on the industrial side, handled 3 marketplace, bringing small business owners into the building, 24 Hargrove, a 20,000 square foot building, 5 tenants, all new, including one from Italy that does fan components for Crane and Train, the large air conditioning firms that supplied large commercial buildings. Today, I'm working on a cable distribution company wanting to bring in 30 jobs, needing 20,000 square feet of space. So today, I look at the council. I tell you about my background, my negotiating capabilities, and where I'm at now. And I'd like to look for the future of the council, one in which I can collaborate with you and talk about bringing jobs in and making better our infrastructure today and for tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll bring it back to the dais. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for applying and being willing to serve the city. My first question to you is regarding the strategic action plan. So it's high-level kind of goals, priorities that inform our budget of where we want to go with this next year's budget. So my question would be, what would be your priorities in the strategic action plan?
At the top of the list is city manager infrastructure. The city manager should be, and Lauren, you've done a wonderful job, but now we're moving on to the next candidate. We need somebody who has business critical analysis capabilities and somebody that knows how to manage people. Not only just managing people, but studying and critiquing the jobs that people are doing so that we know that we have a sufficient amount of employees or are we deficient? That has to be analyzed, and I think that's very critical. The second thing is the infrastructure situation that we have today, which is what I ran on. I have had numerous commercial developers that have actually left because they were told you can build the building, but you won't be able to flush the toilet. So we've lost a lot of interest here. We need to make us look happier and better. We have to tell people we're open for business because we must bring up this commercial industrial tax base or we're going to be in trouble. We have an economic downturn on that residential valuation. We're in trouble. So this increase over this past year is something that I was critiquing. Where is the money going? And the public deserves to understand where their taxes are going to and why are we not applying enough of it to the infrastructure. Let's get that sewage treatment plant one done immediately.
Thank you for your answer. My second question would be in regards to working as a council. As you know, it takes compromise, discussion, differences of opinions have to be hashed out for us to be able to move forward with something going forward, regardless of whether it's a change to something brought before the dais. So my question is, how would you work with the council in terms of compromise, in terms of collaboration?
I've had 40 years of training in being a negotiator. I've been trained to be a problem solver. I think that relationships are critical, trust is critical. Differences of opinion, that's just the American way. The responsibility of the council is to look for the compromise that makes our municipality move forward, that we recognize as municipal servers that we have a responsibility both to the law, to the money, and to the execution, ensuring that the public and the businesses that are coming here can trust what the council is doing, and that we will have a good partnership with the public in terms of providing them the necessary services throughout.
Thank you for that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So, Ms. Manfrey, I'd like to ask you a few questions based on what you said a few minutes ago. One of the comments you made was that commercial developers have told you we could build a building, but we can't then flush the toilet.
Right.
As somebody in the community who I think tries to get more businesses to come here and open their businesses and build here, is there anything that you were able to do in order to address that and figure out the veracity of it?
The veracity of it. It's not coming from me. I was told that it was coming from the city. So if a developer, whether it be commercial, industrial, a swimming pool manufacturer, if they're told that the infrastructure is not going to be sufficient by the time they put the building up and go through the city and the DEP, that water capacity wouldn't be there, I believe what I'm hearing from the employees. I'm not quite sure what you mean by...
I'm trying to get at what your inquisitive nature is, because...
What was the what?
I'm trying to pinpoint what your inquisitive nature is, because as somebody on this council, it takes a lot of research and inquisition and not relying on everything you hear. So from that perspective, what have you done to, or were you able to do anything, or did you have an interest in hearing that and saying, where did this come from? And let me try to really pinpoint the veracity of this so that we can maybe try to fix it.
Okay, so with development, whatever it is, whether it be industrial, commercial, or house, if the client is told a matter, I typically will come to the city and question what the information was to try to problem solve. So for instance, okay, Hutton Development out of Chattanooga, Tennessee came in here to do a 1-acre, 7,400 square foot building in a piece of property that was zoned as of right. It took them over 2 years to get that building open, with numerous phone calls and trying to get city staff, the developer, the architect to collaborate to get the job done. I am accustomed to doing the research. I am accustomed to negotiating between the different parties to get the job done. And that's what we're here for.
With regards to the utilities, how would you have addressed the utility issue when it comes to focusing on infrastructure versus having to raise rates?
It's kind of a two-sided question. I think that it was inevitable that the utility rates would have to be addressed and to be increased because it was stalled for many years. We're many years behind on where we're supposed to be. And I don't like seeing an increase in utility rates, but we're kind of in this inevitable situation. Hit everybody at a high percentage, I don't think is necessary. I think it could be stepped up. And the numbers that are coming in for tax collection, how much of that can be put into the coffer to take care of utility increase. So it's a balancing act. And so all of those numbers must be critiqued and reviewed in order to come up with what is acceptable to the public, especially for our seniors that are on fixed incomes.
So just as a very quick follow-up, based on something you just said, would you be in favor of transferring general fund dollars into the utilities?
I am open to what can be done with, excuse me, by statute that allows you to be able to move funds. The money is the money. And if you have a specific need, we did in corporations. If you had non-performing movie theaters, do you keep them open? Do you sit on them? You make a transfer. You make transfers to take care of you transfer those monies to the growth. I am learning about how the budget is set up with the city. As long as monies can be transferred properly, I like to reduce debt and make sure that the money is there for performance and specifically about our infrastructure.
Thank you. And thank you for being here, even though you're under the weather. We appreciate that.
Councilman Gandaro.
Do you need a moment for water? You could?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, Mrs. Manfrey, thank you for applying to serve on our council. We appreciate all the applicants stepping forward to do that. So 2 questions. First one is, we're in the process of hiring a new city manager. What are the qualities that you look for in a city manager if you were to be part of the council?
I would look for somebody that has already handled the amount of people that we have right now, minimally, because we need somebody who has business acumen that can study the individual departments, that understands budget process, go from what budget there is to zero-based budgeting and work up. I would like somebody who does have municipal experience or business experience, dealing with a lot of different types of departments and needs and wants, and dealing with the public. A lot of business people have public background. I am with the public every day, whether it be attorneys or buyers or sellers, just the nature of what I do, commercial and industrial investment advising. So the city manager has to have good nature, hopefully a good sense of humor, but really look at the numbers and to make us a city that is open for business, open to new ideas and new types of development, but ensuring that we are protecting our lakes and streams and our trees. We've got great buffering with some of our parks now, but I'm very big about parks, and I would like to see more community parks if possible, but the city manager has to have vision and execution.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. My second question has to do with the comprehensive plan and your thoughts on westward expansion. We're in the process of reviewing the comprehensive plan, and I would like your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on westward expansion as well.
So the expansion is inevitable, but it's not today. Today is the infrastructure, the city manager, and getting our feet on the ground of what had not been done in the past and catch up, and let's get it going today, the present planning for the future. I'm very familiar with Rainier. I have seen developments that they have done both at Wildlight, excuse me, in Richmond Hill, Georgia. They're comprehensive and they're thoughtful. The regional road that was being approved was basically state-driven. I do a lot of work up in Jacksonville, and there have been a lot of roads that were formulated because the state said the number of trips and the expansion, this must be done. So that's my understanding of our expansion of that road. Everything else in between is that owner's responsibility. You want to build a development, just like KB Homes and all the rest of them, they have to put the inside infrastructure in and the roads. I think we have a great opportunity with that expansion, but I would like to see the infrastructure addressed immediately. And that particular expansion, it's going to take years.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Ms. Manfrey, I'm only going to ask you one question, and I'll give you a second to collect your thoughts on it, and it's dealing with ethical dilemmas. I want you to give me an example in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma and you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong.
Honestly, I've never had an ethical issue in my 40 years. I've had tough debate. I've had tough decision-making at a closing table of somebody trying to make my company pay for something that hadn't even been brought up. I had to be the negotiator. But ethics, I've never had an ethical issue in my time.
Now, the question was an example of a time where you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong.
Again, I'm referring back, not an ethical issue. I work with the highest integrity and professionalism. I've not come across having to choose right or wrong in an issue. I've had to choose to be a negotiator in a tough decision-making, but I believe in by the law and being honest and forthright. If I see a wrong, it's going to get corrected.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions from the dais? All right, thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to the next candidate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. And it's Miss Paulus, is that, I'm pronouncing it correct? Okay, we'll give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself, give us whatever you want about your background, and then we'll have questions from the dais.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
Hold the mic up so we can hear you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you for having me. I have been a resident, part-time and full-time, since 2000. We came down from Connecticut. We built our first home in Grand Haven. I was at the grand opening of the golf course when Jack Nicklaus opened the club. And I've watched the town grow from 20,000 to over 100,000. And I see the growing pains. And that's why I'm interested in being involved in a community that's experiencing some things that are quite concerning. So I have to catch my breath. Sorry.
Okay. Take your
I
time.
have an affinity for Florida. I came down from Connecticut and New York way back. I went to University of Central Florida. I got my master's in industrial psych. And some of the things are interesting because I worked in a field where I learned how important it is to do things to help reduce defensiveness. Conflict resolution involves listening to people, reflecting back what you hear them saying. So these are things that I thought would help because I've been watching some of the videos, and there's a lot of, stress from the residents. And it's something where you want to make them feel respected and acknowledged. So maybe that will help, maybe not. My first job out of grad school, I worked for Ross Perot Systems, and I helped set up the data center for United Bank of Switzerland in Stamford, Connecticut. And I remember he had us carry value cards. And the first thing he said is honesty is very important. He also believed very much in work ethic. And these are hard things to assess. I mean, you can assess technical skills, but it's difficult to assess the soft skills, which I'm sure you're probably experiencing. He wanted people with good character. He said, I could train them in the technical skills, but I want good character. So that left an impression on me for the rest of my career. I've worked in corporations such as FICO, Spectrum, Oracle, Accenture. I've been an advisor to a lot of companies. I've staffed out nationwide hires. Globally, I've even placed people. So, I'm rushing. So, I only have 23 seconds. So I would like to be able to help you. I think you're amazing. I've been watching you go through quite a lot of churn, and that's why I wanted to come today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for applying and being
Thank
willing
you.
to serve. My first question revolves around the strategic action plan. So that's high-level goals and priorities that we use to inform the budgetary process, so things that we want to fund going forward as a priority. And so my question to you would be, what would be your priorities for the strategic action plan?
The biggest problem, in my opinion, is we've grown beyond our capacity, particularly with the water system, the water treatment facility, which I know I'm very happy that we got a bond of $290 million. And I'm also happy that you were able to get, I think the bond is going to cover, as far as the plan, 54% of improvements. The impact fees from the developers will be about 27%. I'm doing this from memory. The residents, the surprising thing, and I think it's a good point to bring out, we're going to be contributing 15%. So, and the rest, I think, is grants. So I'm hopeful that, it's a little uncomfortable. There are a lot of seniors who are on fixed income, but I feel that it was a good, somewhat of a good compromise where we came to that point. So I give you credit for however you did that. I give you a lot of credit for that. As far as strategic, I know the Belvedere project has been proposed, and I'm watching on Nextdoor, there's a lot of tension and resistance about risk, and I was just wondering, has the DEP or anyone done any kind of risk assessment as far as the location in terms of the proximity to the water treatment facility as well as residences? I don't know if that's been done, but I would like to know a little more about it.
Thank you for that answer. So infrastructure and economic development is,
Yes.
is kind of the interest that you
And
have.
we need more jobs. Let's get some IT firms here.
And my second question to you would be more about kind of the process of working together. And you kind of touched on it, and I had highlighted in your resume the bit about industrial psychology. And
Yes.
I didn't cheat and Google it because I wanted you to tell me what that even means. And so my question, though, is for council, we have to compromise, we have to discuss, we have
Yes.
differences of opinions, but ultimately we have to have at least 3 people agree on one course of action. And so my question to you is, how would you utilize your experience and skills to work within that dynamic?
So industrial psychology is psychology applied to business. My thesis, just for example, was done with the idea that people have biases, and it's very hard to, get the real performance appraisal done if a person has average performance. And this is just an example. So what I did is I studied gender-linked occupations. For example, male-dominated professions, female-dominated professions at the time, when this goes way back. So for example, when someone's a superstar, you know it. When someone is really failing, you know it. But what about everybody in the middle? How come there's so many misinterpretations about people? Because there are biases operating. So in the case of a male nurse, the status of the occupation pulled his performance down. But when a woman entered a male-dominated profession, that status pulled up her average performance. So all these kinds of things occur in our judgment process. And what my role was, and I have a book written on this at UCF, is to make people aware that these biases can occur and just, to try to not get influenced by them.
Thank you for your answers. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So one of the biggest challenges we have as council is balancing city services with the budget, making sure that we try to keep taxes low. We don't like to raise rates, but we also don't want to cut services. Strategically, how would you balance those two things, providing sufficient city services without raising taxes?
Very challenging. That's very challenging. We are a larger city than what I anticipated moving to years ago. And I think, there are certain key things that you must have. You must have good water. It's a health issue. So I believe that that's something that we're working on. And I think, I don't know how long it takes to get the systems operative, but that's a big factor. As far as infrastructure, a lot of people are complaining about the volume of traffic. I would like to look at areas in the budget that maybe could be, and I don't want to get into politics, but maybe there are ways of cutting back on certain programs to realign the funds for some of the critical projects, the absolute must-have projects, like the water treatment plants, like our traffic problems. So it would be sort of looking at the budget, seeing how you could reallocate from some other programs. I know we have a water park. I don't go there, but maybe turn off the water. I don't know. It would have to be explored.
Have you had a chance to look at our budget? And if so, are there certain places where you think more attention should be given and maybe less budgetary funds dedicated to it?
I think, honestly, I have not looked at the budget, so it's hard for me to evaluate it. But I think that, I don't know, maybe you need to have an independent auditor come in and say, these are areas that you're overspending.
So would you be in favor of a forensic audit?
Pardon? A forensic audit, yes.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, Councilman Gambaro.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for applying to serve
you.
on this council. We appreciate it. So 2 questions. First one is, we're in the process of hiring a city manager. What are the qualities that you would look for if appointed to this seat here next to me in selecting a city manager?
Interesting. I looked at about a few of the profiles, and they were very impressive. But again, getting back to my first experience working at Pro Systems, I think character is so critical. If you can assess that, it's very difficult to do that, but there are ways of assessing a person's core values. You can teach them anything. They could grow into the role. I know Mayor Mike, you've been growing. You've been here maybe 100 days. And, you know, that's what it takes. You have to learn what the role really requires. But if you have good character, it's something that I think can be, you know, dealt with.
Okay, and my second question has to do with the westward expansion, and, you know, this council is in the process of reviewing our comprehensive plan. Could you share your thoughts on those two items?
So there's a lot of development, Sawmill Creek, the Reverie, a lot of new developments going up out west. And again, does US 1 have the ability to handle, and they go very fast. I adopted dogs from the Flagler Humane Society, and whenever I go there, I'm amazed. They speed by so quickly, and trucks. So I think the infrastructure is a big factor. There's so many homes going up on US 1 that I'm concerned for, you know, for safety. I mean, you know, maybe there's ways of mitigating that, like, you know, put another lane in or put some more traffic lights, but they go very fast, and I think it's dangerous for the citizens there, residents.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, ma'am, I'm only going to ask you one question, and it concerns ethical dilemmas. I want you to, and I'll give you time to think about it. I want you to give me a time in your life where you were faced with an ethical dilemma, meaning you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. So again, the question is about finding yourself in an ethical dilemma, having to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. You can take a moment to think about it if you like.
So I had a personal dilemma in my life. I'm an only child, and I had a very sick mother who I was responsible for over a decade. And I had very big jobs back in the day. I was a director of Cablevision out of New York and Westchester with a staff of 12, and I was staffing up quite quickly 1,000 positions per year. But I had a very sick mom. So the time came for her to have a quadruple bypass. I knew I had a lot of people depending on me, but I also had a mom who was depending on me. So I believe in delegating. If you can identify who the people are that you trust and you could delegate to. I started prepping people on my team. I said, I need you now to step it up, and they came through, and my mom survived.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anything else from the dais? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am. You can go back with the rest, and we'll bring you back out shortly.
Mr. Mayor, just for the councils to think about, we are coming up on a time crunch here. Maybe a direction from the council at some point, because we do have a proclamations at 5:30. So just something to think about. If the council wants a direction of it one way, either just consensus.
Okay, we should get through this pretty quick.
I was
Got
just,
one, two, three, 4, 5 left.
no, not really. I don't think we should, but I push back proclamations if we
Yeah,
have
we
to.
can,
Yeah.
we'll push it to the right on the proclamations if we have to. Good afternoon, Mr. Perez. We're going to allow you 3 minutes to introduce yourself, give us your background, and then we'll ask questions from the dais. So go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, for the opportunity to come here and present myself. I will try in 3 minutes to explain why I am probably the best candidate for this position. By way of background, most of my adult life was spent in financial endeavors of one sort or another. I was a banker for over 20 years. I did small business financial consulting, cash flow consulting for 15 years. I was the president of, or the CEO of a little credit union. You know, I've got a pretty good background. I can read balance sheets, income statements, you name it, and do analysis on them. And that's how I tend to make decisions for the most part. Some years back, probably over 40 years ago, I was in the audience where a very bright man who had started a business and sold it to then Chemical Bank for $50 million was giving a talk. One member of the audience asked him, well, what do you think are the secrets to success in business? He paused for a moment and said, I'll give you two. One, make all of your business decisions based on how they impact your projected P&L. Two, never run out of cash. I think that that is the type of thinking that the council can employ to benefit the citizens of Palm Coast. At the same time, I think that communicating how decisions are made or the rationale for decisions can be improved. One of the thoughts I have on that is that you can't just put things on Facebook and hope people see it. You have to have press briefings. And at those press briefings, explain why the decision was made, what the rationale was, what kind of background information was gathered in order to make that decision. And it won't necessarily make everybody happy, but not every decision will. Another thing that I can do that might be helpful, since I don't intend ever to run for office, and this to me is a perfect opportunity because I used to work 2 or 3 days a week at Florida Healthcare Plans, and that just recently came to an end. They don't want agents in their Palm Coast office. So never before have I had the time to devote to a city council position in order to do the job right. And I know it takes a lot of time. I'm willing to put in the time. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm honest and meticulous.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to thank you for applying to serve our city. My first question revolves around the strategic action plan. So these are high-level goals that kind of inform our budgetary process and how we fund specific activities within the city. And so my question to you, what items would be priority for you on the strategic action plan?
I wish I could tell you that I have studied the finances of the city well enough to be able to give you a straight, direct answer to that. But I would need to know more before I could really make it intelligent.
These are just high-level priorities, things that you would like to see the city focus on.
Everything the council decides impacts the budget one way or another. So I would always tie the decision to its impact on the budget. Now, you get things that come up that look like they impact it one way and they really impact it another, or there are hidden costs that nobody really anticipated. You know, that if you're having a lot of construction, you've got trucks on the road that are damaging the road, and those streets have to be fixed. So that's a hidden cost to the development and the growth in the area, but it's an important thing to have happen. Is that an answer that satisfies you?
Yes, thank you. The second question I have is about working on council and having differences of opinions, having to compromise to come to a conclusion so that we can move forward on an item. How would your experience, your skills lend itself to that?
Well, I understand that the country was founded on the basis of having different opinions, talking about them, and coming to a compromise that may not satisfy either party, but moves the process along. And that's my approach to things, trying to find a win-win. For example, the subject of development is on top of everybody's mind. I think the council could sit down with the Home Builders Association and find ways to make it a win-win, because we need them and they need us, and that's life.
Thank you, I appreciate that, that's all.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to follow up on Councilman Miller's question about the strategic action plan. So understanding your general answer that decisions need to be based on the effect of the budget, but what do you feel should be prioritized? What should we put our budgetary dollars towards?
Well, it really depends on how many citizens will benefit from the dollars being spent. For example, the streets. Everybody uses the streets, so that has to be a high priority. You get somebody who wants pickleball courts, they're going to be used by some people, and it's a great thing to do, but it may not be the best use of the city's money. Now, I understand a little bit about fund accounting, so if you've got a development fund and a general fund, you can't use the development fund for the streets. You can use the general fund for the process or the project. So in terms of what I have seen, quality of life seems to be extremely high, and that is the city's brand. So protecting the brand by making sure that the sheriff continues to do what he has been doing extremely well, and that's keep it safe. The schools, why do people move here? They move here because it's a safe community, it has good schools, and it's a delightful community. It's really got a lot of recreational activities, and although we could use more services, we could use more restaurants with more stores, and we could certainly use more light industrial development and commercial development. But protecting the city's brand has to be the #1 priority. So if something comes up that might threaten that brand, then that has to be moved down the list. Is that
Yeah,
enough
that's
of an answer?
sufficient, thank you.
Okay.
And then my other question is, being a numbers guy, how would you have handled the utility situation that we just had to address with regards to infrastructure and raising rates?
We had a pretty good discussion on that out in the waiting room. And apparently the city didn't collect impact fees for a number of years. And that has put the city in a hole. Obviously, at that time, the city was not making decisions based on the impact of the decision on the projected budget, but we need to do that. So there are going to be some people unhappy, but we have to raise some costs, and that's just the fact of life. Now, the other side of that is we never want to lose sight of the fact that some people won't be able to afford that. And do I have an answer for that? Not really, no. When somebody can't afford something, they just can't afford it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Councilman Gambaro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Perez, thank you for submitting your application to serve on this council. We appreciate it. 2 questions for you. We're in the process of hiring a new city manager. What are qualities do you look for in a city manager if you were to be appointed to the seat?
Well, I don't generally like the term manager. I like leader. With your background, you know the difference, and I'm sure you appreciate the difference. When I have been in a position of leadership, I have taken that very seriously and always tried to take care of the people that I'm leading, communicate with them what my vision of our goal is, and then hopefully they buy into it. I mean, I've always had the experience that they do. Once they understand where you are trying to go and why you're trying to go there and what their contribution can be and how they can help, they buy in.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, we're in the process of reviewing our comprehensive plan and having a robust discussion on the westward expansion. What are your thoughts on those 2 topics?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Sure. We're in the process of reviewing our comprehensive plan and also having a robust discussion on westward expansion. What are your thoughts on those 2 topics?
My wife and I moved here from Irvine, California 10 years ago. Irvine, California is a prototypical planned community. They have a 5-year plan, they have a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a 20-year plan. But they review the 1, the 5, and the 10 they review the 1 and the 5 every year. They review the 5 and the 10 every 5 years, and the 20-year plan every 10 years. This comprehensive plan went for a long time without being adjusted to the reality on the ground. It needs some work. I attended some of the workshops for input on the comprehensive plan, and they all seemed to focus on aesthetics and quality of life. Well, there's a financial reality to all of those. While those are certainly important, and I mentioned protecting the brand, that is the brand of Palm Coast, and we always have to protect that, but not to the detriment of the financial aspect.
Okay, and any thoughts on westward expansion?
Oh, westward expansion, the city has to keep expanding. When we moved, Irvine is an example again. When we first moved there, the population was about 61,000. When we moved from there, it was 215. We went back for a visit a couple of years later, it was 250. Cities grow. People, especially when you have a brand like Palm Coast, people are attracted to it. Now, a lot of people moved from Florida in the past couple of years because they were escaping other jurisdictions where the taxation was prohibitive and maybe the politics wasn't to their liking. But some of them have had to move back because when they got here, they discovered that the insurance cost was astronomical, and the homeowners associations were, really tough. And, there are a lot of reasons why people move to Palm Coast and why people move back from here to someplace else, or move from here to someplace else. I think that the westward expansion is vital to the future of the city.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Perez, I'm only going to ask you one question, okay? And I'll give you a moment to collect your thoughts on it. It's concerning ethical dilemmas. I want you to tell me about a time in your life, in your professional career, where you were faced with an ethical dilemma, meaning you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Can you please give me an example of that?
I have no difficulty with that.
You have never been faced with an ethical dilemma?
When I was a branch manager on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, the first couple of months, I was faced with so many opportunities to do something that was unethical, make a loan that shouldn't have been made. I didn't do any of them. I don't fall into that trap.
But you have no example of an ethical dilemma where you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong?
There's no hard right. It's either right or wrong. And if it's right, it's easy.
Okay, any other questions from the dais? All right, thank you, Mr. Perez.
Thank you, sir.
Next up is Mr. Chad Raymond. Oh, he pulled out? Okay, good. Mr. Mark Stansel would be next. Yeah, I had a couple scratched out. I couldn't remember the other name. Good afternoon, Mr. Stansel. We're going to give you 3 minutes to briefly give us your background and your experience and why you're here, and then we'll have questions from the dais. So go right ahead, sir.
Okay. I'm Dana Mark Stansel. I spent 20 years in the military, traveled all over the world, and I retired from the post office also. But then I brought myself to Palm Coast. And immediately got involved in what's going on in the city. First thing I applied for was the planning board, and I didn't make it that time, but then I applied for the CAC, dealing with the transportation office in Volusia. Then I got on the Code Force Board, and served on it until last year I ran for city council, which me and my friend Ray, we had the closest race ever. 2 points separate us, 2 votes. And we had 3 great counts, and Ray won, and I supported him, and we got him landslided into that seat. If it had gone the other way, I might be sitting up there now. And then since then, I got appointed to the planning board. So that's how my involvement in Palm Coast has been. This is our town, and it's growing. We have 107,000 people now, and it's not a small bedroom community. And we have to treat it like a big city. We need to make sure the infrastructure is good. We need to make sure that we have enough water, because it's growing still, and it's going to be growing. And I want to help make those decisions. I'm a fiscal conservative, and we need to find ways to budget the money for the city, find ways to save money, because we don't have a lot of money. So we got to be smart. We got to be very smart. And I think that's the most important thing, is to make these good decisions, because the people, they voted for me in the election, and they still support me. You know, since Ray stepped down, I've had so many people that were supportive of Ray support me, and they said, you need to get back in here. So that's why I'm here, because Ray and I are on the same mind, and we have the best for Palm Coast in our hearts. So if you've got any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Miller?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, I just wanted to thank you for applying to serve, and also, obviously, during the election as well. It's not an easy thing to go through, so I appreciate that. My first question is about the strategic action plan, and so these are high-level kind of agenda items that kind of inform how we're going to structure our budget, so how we're going to fund certain things. So in the past, there's been things like tax rollback, infrastructure, IT infrastructure, things like that. So what priorities would you like to set as a city councilman?
Well, one thing that will help our tax base is to get some industry in here, okay, so that it will be offset and balanced, because 93% of our income is off homes. It's not enough. That's not a good balance. So we need to do that so that we can offset the tax bank, so we'll be able to manage some of these things with a little more money.
Thank you. And then my second question is about, operating as a council, having differences of opinions, debate, and then ultimately coming to a conclusion with at least 3 people moving something forward. And so can you just talk about your experience and skills and how they would contribute to that?
Well, as you know, in the military, we have squad leaders, platoon leaders, and we have to converse with each other. We have to make sure that we all come to the right conclusion. Now, sometimes we disagree, but we work it out. Sometimes we have to compromise. Through the compromise, we can reach good solutions. Anything else?
Thank you for that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Vice Mayor?
Good afternoon. Thank you for your service, and thank you for serving on PLDRB as well. I also appreciate you running and then putting in for this appointment. You referenced yourself as a fiscal conservative. As a policymaker, how would you put that fiscal conservatism to work?
Well, you can't spend blindly. You have to be careful. You have to look at, prioritize. What do we have to spend money on now, as opposed to, do we have something frivolous that we're spending it on? Maybe that could be backtabled, or done away with. Or maybe we need to look at the city as a whole and find out where we're wasting money. Do a Doge for Palm Coast. For a more efficient government here, find out where we're wasting money. That way we can use that money where we need it the most.
In response to Councilman Miller's question about your priority of economic development, diversifying the tax base, and bringing in industry, that takes money, a lot of that, investment. So in that realm, what would you use city monies to invest in order to forward that priority?
Well, part of the problem I think we have in Palm Coast is we don't necessarily have a lot of land. We might have to purchase land to put let a factory be built. I don't know. These are questions that, I'm not privy to at this time. So, but we've got to be able to offer a company something so that they'll come here.
So are you in favor of spending budgetary monies on investment in economic development?
We might have to.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Gambaro.
Mr. Stansel, first of all, thank you for your military service, and thank you for applying to serve on the city council. Two questions. One, as you know, we're in the process of selecting a new city manager. What are the qualities that you would look for if you are appointed to the seat and become part of that process?
What was the question?
What are the qualities that you would look for in a city manager if you're appointed to the District 3 seat and become part of the process?
You need somebody that's had some larger city experience, that knows the ins and outs of what they're doing. I just briefly took a look at some of the ones, and there's one that stuck out as I would say wouldn't be qualified, but because they're from a little town near where I came from, and it's only 8,000 people. To me, that's not enough experience. You need somebody with a vaster knowledge of a larger amount of money to deal with, because Palm Coast has a lot of money issues, and they have a lot of money. So you don't need a small town city manager. You need somebody with more worldly experience.
Okay, and on the second question, what are your thoughts of, we're also going to be voting on the comprehensive plan, where we're working through that right now, and what are your thoughts on the westward expansion?
Well, I don't know everything that's in the comprehensive plan off the top of my head, but I know Ray Tyner's been working really hard on it, and I know parts of it. Excuse me, my mouth's dry. But we're growing, okay? The comprehensive plan has to include growth. We can't stop the growth. We have to plan to where we can sustain that growth, and the comprehensive plan has to provide that.
And your thoughts on westward expansion?
Well, it's going to happen. It's going to expand west. We can't expand south. We run into Corona and Ormond. North, we run into just a highway. So west is logical. Plus, we own the land there. So that's inevitable. Plus, we've got the water plant out that area anyway. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Stansel, I'm only going to ask you one question, okay? And it's dealing with ethical dilemmas. So I want you to tell me about a time in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma, meaning you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Take a moment, think about it, and then you can answer.
Well, Offenbach, Germany, the largest army post office in the world, I was the supervisor, shift supervisor, and we had a really good soldier, worked hard, never a problem, committed a security violation, but it was a bad one. I don't think he meant to do it, but he did, and there was a lot of pressure. So I had to make a hard decision, report him to the commander, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't let him go. I had to report the commander. And he gave an Article 15. That's a punishment, He was taking $200 out of his pay and returned to work. And I worked with him. And I eventually required to, I asked the commander about 6 months later to put acting sergeant stripes on him because he'd made a big turnaround. And it was a hard decision to reporting to the commander, but had to.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions from the dais?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Stansel.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Commander Finn, could you possibly try to get everybody to stay a little bit quiet until we finish up these interviews, please? Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Stevens. We're going to give you 3 minutes to tell us about yourself and your background and anything else the reason why you're here, and then we'll have questions from the dais. So whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and all the public that's sitting behind us today. I appreciate everybody being here for this important decision. My name is Candace Stevens. I live in the P section on Point Pleasant, and I've been here for about 10 years in Palm Coast. I kind of feel like I've been interviewing for this position for the last 2.5 years. I remember my first time talking to you on the dais. I actually think the first sentence I said was, "I love Palm Coast," and that's why I'm here. I'm here today because of my heart. This seat being open has really called to me. I thought about running for the seat before, but I thought Mr. Stevens was a better candidate for me than me. So that's why I helped to try to get him elected. But I really feel that I am most like the residents in my district than the other people applying for this position. Most of the people in my district are hospitality, service, or construction, and I come from one of those fields myself. Right now, I work at a multi-million-dollar resort. I write the dessert and the cocktail menu, and I actually execute those as well. So I've been made out to be just a bartender. I'm far more than a bartender. I'm creative, I'm collaborative, and I'm compassionate. I really care about Palm Coast. That's why I've been to all the meetings, had all the community meetings I had, and been involved with all the groups that I've been involved in. I'm here for the right reasons, I believe. I've already changed my work schedule because the city means so much to me. That's why I'm able to attend all the meetings that I've been to. And I feel like I'm one of the few people that has already given you ideas that we could use to bring more revenue into the city for future residents. I'm also the only person that asked for the copies of the resumes of the city manager because I wanted to be prepared to make a decision should I be chosen for the position. I've read over them all and I have a lot of opinions and I have a favorite myself. I don't know if anybody else has spent the time to do that. I've showed you guys for the last 2.5 years how I feel about the city. I have a great working relationship with the staff in the back, and I have a great relationship with all of you. I've never been disrespectful or condescending. I've always been positive, and I think that we need that here. I also think that I'm one of the few people that can mend the relationship between the city government and the people of our city. People have a bad opinion, and I want to be one of the people to change that by sitting up on the dais and being able to speak plainly and clearly of the things that we're thinking about and the things that we're going to do for our citizens in the future. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to say thank you for applying to serve our city. I appreciate that. The first question I had for you is the strategic action plan. So it's a high-level list of priorities that inform kind of how we budget and fund specific priorities from the council. And so my question to you is, for the strategic action plan, what would be your priorities?
My priorities are infrastructure, stormwater, wastewater. That's been my topic since the first day I stood up here, and I stand by that. I also would like to be able to help with maybe the Humane Society issue that we're having, and maybe look at different ways that we can spend our money better. And I also am interested in the traffic issues that we're having in my district. We have quite a few. So I'm open to all of it. I'm very collaborative. I just need all the information. Once I have all the information, I'm really good at, taking it in, understanding it, and coming up with ideas. I think I could be a real good asset to you guys.
Thank you for that. And then my second question is in regards to the council and having to be collaborative, having to work together. to form a consensus, to compromise, even when we have differences of opinion. So tell me about your experience and skills and how you would apply those to this situation.
I'm very collaborative. I mean, I'm all about ideas. I'm all about thinking outside of the box. I think having somebody with my background, being a police officer, being in hospitality, all the services I've done for folks, I think that I would be a different type of viewpoint for you guys to have some new, fresh ideas to come in. I think that we really need that right now. I mean, we're changing, our city is changing for the better into a fresh new city, and I just really think that we need some fresh new faces and fresh new ideas to come along. So I'm all about collaboration. It's not my way or the highway. I'm all about information. If you can give me something that changes my mind, I've seen Ty have this happen up here, I'm all about that. I just want what's best for the city and my district. That's all I'm here for.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
How would you have handled the utility situation?
Well, the utility situation is complicated, okay, because we have...
I agree with you there.
Yeah, we have a lot of citizens that just can't afford it, and then we have those people that, you know, can afford it. My view on the utility is, because I've been sitting here for so long, I've seen that come up, the rates come up to be raised, and it seemed like it was always during an election year, and I kind of feel like it got kicked down the road, and so now here we are, and we have to make up the difference, and that's what we're doing now. I don't mind paying it. I'm invested in Palm Coast. I've spent a lot of money on my home, and I'm invested here. I'm not going anywhere. So I don't mind to pay to keep the city up to what it was when I came here, because I used to remember coming here and thinking how beautiful it was, how well kept everything was, and how everything functioned. And I want to keep it that way. So I know people are upset about the utility rate hike, but sometimes hard decisions have to be made, and not everybody's going to like it. And I understand that. And I came up with the idea to have future residents that are coming in at a date that we choose pay the higher rate that we are actually reaching for those of us that are already here. Because to us, we're watching the rate go up, so we see the influx of the money. But people that are coming from other places are used to paying more money already, so they're not going to notice that higher rate from the start. So that was one of the ideas that I gave to you to bring in more revenue for the city to plan for the next water plant that we're going to need. I think that we could use that money for that.
What are two things you feel could be done to balance growth and quality of life?
I think when you balance growth, you balance the quality of life at the same time. So I think what we need to do is realistically look at how many permits that we need to approve every year to keep business going, okay? We need to work with the HBA and the building department, and we need to get some numbers, and I think that we need to find a happy medium to where we can still grow, but we can grow with those of us that are here already in mind, because it's been really hard the last few years. I mean, I have so many construction projects going on in my district near my home. I have to go to work a different way now. So I just think the way that we plan things could maybe be done a little bit differently, but we're going to grow. Palm Coast is going to grow, and it's going to continue to grow, and everybody knows that. So we just need to find a way to grow smart.
Have you thought about ways, though, to balance the budget with the growth?
That's hard because we're at a loss. We're coming from behind because of the term where we weren't collecting enough of the infrastructure, the impact fees from the developers. So I kind of feel like we're working at a loss. We're trying to catch up. So I give a weekly Doge report where I work. I tell them what I've done all week long. So I think that if there's cuts that we can make, then we need to make cuts. I mean, I know it's not something people would like to hear, but to keep the city growing with the vitality that it has and what we expect as the residents, sometimes you have to make cuts. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Gambaro.
Ms. Stevens, thank you for applying to serve on the council. We appreciate it. So two questions. The first one is, you mentioned that you reviewed some of the resumes for city manager. It's one of the biggest decisions we're going to make.
All of them.
All of them. And so what are the qualities that you look for in a city manager?
I'm looking for somebody that has worked their way up in city government, that's seen it from the bottom up, that knows how it works from the inside out. I'm also looking for somebody that has had a difficult project to execute and executed it with phenomenal results in the end. I'm also looking for somebody that looks to seem ethical on paper, and I also want somebody that loves Palm Coast as much as I do.
Okay. Speaking of difficult projects, what's your thoughts on the westward expansion?
The westward expansion has been a contentious issue in our city, as you guys all know. The previous administration didn't allow a lot of public input, so people felt very put off by it. But when you look at it in reality, Palm Coast has to grow. It was in our plan from the very beginning. So we have to grow, but we have to grow, like I said, in a responsible way where it doesn't affect the people that are living here so much. We need to try to keep more green space, try to deal with traffic, and try to add people in to where they can mesh in and to where it's not such a big impact to people. That's what's been going on basically since I've been here. But Palm Coast has to grow, and so we're gonna all have to sit down and look at all the plans, and we're gonna have to come to an agreement for what's best for the city. And that's just how it has to be, because there's no other way to go about it.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Stevens, I'm gonna give you one question, okay? And I'll give you a second to gather your thoughts on it. It's concerning ethical dilemmas. I want you to tell me about a situation in your professional career where you were faced with the ethical dilemma and you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Take your time and think about it if you have to.
Well, that's easy for me. I live my life on law and order, on principles, concepts, and expectations, and I expect others to do that as well. Yes, that happened to me when I was a police officer. I was asked to just toss something away and let the person go. That wasn't my job. The elements of the crime were there. You're guilty, sir. Sorry. You're going to jail. I'm a very ethical person. That is the only thing you don't have to worry about with me. I might not say something exactly the right way sometimes, but I'm very ethical. You can look at my background check and see that. It speaks for itself.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anything else from the dais? Okay, thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you for having us.
We got one more.
Okay.
If you can tell
Do
them
I have to
come
go
on
out
in.
or can I stay?
You can stay in. I don't mind. Good afternoon, Mr. Sullivan. We're going to give you 3 minutes to briefly describe yourself and your background, and then we'll have questions from the dais. So
Very good.
whenever you're ready to go.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Just a quick statement. Name is David Sullivan, and I'm here for the District 3 position. I have made application to the open city council position recently and unfortunately vacated by Ray Stevens. As a longtime resident of Palm Coast and having served as a Flagler County Commissioner for the past 8 years, I feel I am well suited for this position. I retired from the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners in November of 2024. During that time frame, I won 2 countywide contested elections and served as chairman during the difficult COVID pandemic. I have kept up with current issues facing the city of Palm Coast, and am ready to assume the position, if selected, immediately. While in office, I always looked at each issue presented in detail and made my decision based on the information presented without any preconceived notions or biased influence. My record shows that I finish what I start, and I have proven leadership capability. My health is excellent. After living in many places around the country and internationally, I chose Palm Coast as my home in 1999 and resided here for the past 24 years. Despite the problems the city faces now as it grows, we still live in one of the best places to live in the United States. It is very important for me personally and as a public servant to make sure that Palm Coast remains a great place for all our citizens to live, work, and enjoy life in all respects. So with that, I'll go up for questions.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to thank you for applying to serve our city. And my first question revolves around the strategic action plan. If you were to be selected, what would be your priorities for our strategic action plan?
Well, you know, the strategic action plan is the first of really 3 documents that end up guiding what you're going to do in the organization. You go to the comprehensive plan and then the land development code. So the strategic plan sets overall policies. And so therefore, the things that are important here are that we continue to make this a great place to live for all our citizens, as I said, but we also have to look at what it's going to take to make the city viable into the future. And that involves more than just building homes. It involves the utility services people expect, safety. Public safety is always the number one critical point. So in a strategic plan, you usually start with public safety and you go on from there. But so I would start there and then work my way through the various parts. I know that the city right now is faced with some big bills that have to be paid for our utility system, for roads, you know, for make sure we have jobs for the people who live here, have some kind of housing that makes sense, and that we keep the city looking beautiful. And we worry about other things in the strategic plan. It should be the environment, how we make sure we keep that in good shape. So that's kind of where I would come down on that.
Thank you for that. And then my second question, and I think you probably, because of your experience, have a good grasp of this, but just if you could explain your process for this to us. You know, working on a council, you have differences of opinions, arguments, debate, but ultimately some form of compromise, hopefully, in order to keep the ball rolling and get things done. So can you just explain your approach to that?
Well, my approach would be don't start controversy if you don't know the facts, number one. So sometimes people will hear something and hear a rumor or something and start talking. So I always felt in my job as a commissioner up on the podium like you are now, first you find out what the facts are. You carefully go through the backup. I know our backup there, I'm sure it's like you're at 400 or 500 pages, 600 pages for each meeting. At least you got to get through it so you have some idea what's going on. At that point, I think you can not so much argue, but make your points clearly without getting emotional about it, because it's important that we eventually come up with a decision that at least 3 out of the 5 can agree to, and hopefully most of the decisions should be totally, well, 5 out of 5 making the decision. So I'd say that the more information you have, the less controversy you should get involved with.
Thank you for that. I don't have any more questions.
Vice Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Sullivan. Good to see you.
Good evening.
What is your position on the half-cent sales tax for the beach renourishment?
The which, I'm sorry?
What is your position and your feeling on the half-cent sales tax for the beach renourishment?
Well, I mean, I can't get it. I mean, on the county, I've been a proponent saying that given the way our real estate tax is worth with homestead exemptions and Save Our Homes, it's very hard to generate enough money in this day and age as we go into the future without raising taxes. I think the half-cent sales tax of the taxes that could be done is the fairest. We bring in money from outside through tourism. About 30% of the money would come in on the half-cent sales tax. The city gets the largest share, by the way, of that half-cent sales tax if it goes through. And so if money has to be raised and we don't want to change the millage rate, I think you're forced to look at the half-cent sales tax. But that's based on the fact that the funding isn't available otherwise.
So when you say the funding isn't available otherwise, and I guess this is more of a general question, when looking at the budget and how to fund priorities, what is your first step in analyzing the budget versus looking at rates and taxes?
Well, first you start with public safety, and that involves police and fire. Make sure your medical's there. and then you go on to the other necessities, roads. And so you have to build the infrastructure and make sure we're safe. Once you accomplish all those things, but you want to have parks, people want services. They don't want to have just the police and just roads. They want parks, they want the environment to look good, you want their public facilities to be good. So it's a balancing act. And you have to be careful of doing the old gold watch trick where you say, oh, well, we have to cut the budget. And the guy says, well, now you're going to lose 6 fire trucks. Well, that's not necessarily true. You're probably going to lose a park or something like that before you lose the hardcore stuff.
I just have one more quick question. I appreciate the service that you've given the county, been wonderful. What is your proudest accomplishment as a county commissioner?
Well, first of all, I think the fact that I got I did 4 years and got reelected, I feel that I was straightforward the whole time I was on the county. I think the county right now is in decent shape and that we've done a lot of good things. We've got a brand new sheriff's department building. We're building a new South Library, and still our millage rate has not gone up. So I think we held the costs in check and still were able to provide the services that were required during the time I was there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Gambaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Sullivan, thank you for being willing to jump back into public service and serving here on the City Council. And also thank you for your almost 3 decades of service in our military. So thank you for that. During your time on the county commission, you've had some experience in both hiring and firing county administrators. What are the qualities that you look for in hiring a CEO for the city if you were to be appointed to the seat?
Well, I mean, they're the same qualities that you would want in any senior manager, and that is they have to be knowledgeable. They have to understand and be willing to listen to people, because you're going to have to do that, but you're also going to have to be a decision maker, because it's not easy when you're actually the city manager or the county administrator. At some point, you got to make decisions to bring forward, if it's policy, bring forward to the council. So the qualities I would like to see: a firm, straightforward, knowledgeable person, but who also has the ability to listen and make decisions when they have to make. I don't want to say you're going to be a goody two-shoes and always try to get along with everybody, that ultimately you're going to have to make decisions, and that's a tough part of the job. I mean, there's a million things to worry about, but I would say those kind of things.
Thank you, sir. And my last question is, what are your thoughts on the westward expansion?
Well, there's going to be expansion. I have not been on the city council involved with all the decisions were made on that, and I don't even know at this point, where we are as far as decisions. I know the one thing that happened was we got quite a bit of funding from the state to do the loop out to the west. Beyond that, I'm not privy to the insider information of what's going to be built there and so forth, so on and so forth. But I do think expansion is coming, and we want to make sure we do it smartly, the old smart growth thing. But the one thing I know did happen was you did get the money to build that westward expansion road, and I would hold my opinions on the rest of it till I was put in a position where I'd have to make a decision on it. I'd like to know the details. I don't know all the details about what's involved when you say westward expansion, but I know where it is. I know generally what it is, but beyond the road that's being built, I'm not sure that I have enough information to make any decisions at this point.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to ask you one question. That's it. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you two.
Okay.
First question is, we're talking about ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas. I would like you to tell me about a situation in your professional career where you were faced with an ethical dilemma and you had to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. You can take a moment to think about it.
Okay. and when I was in the Navy, I was an intelligence officer for the second part of my Navy career, and things, we always were dealing with classified material. And every once in a while, out on the carrier, a lot of classified material, lots of messages being handled, and they all had to be handled carefully. And one of the ways that we did that was, if we were far enough out at sea, we had burn bags. If you know what that, you probably remember burn bags for classified material. And I was the intelligence officer on the ship and also handled all the communications, paperwork and all that. And so there was a time when a guy I loved, a first-class petty officer, came to me and almost in tears, and he said that he mishandled the burn bags, and about 3 or 4 of them got tossed over the side of the ship without being burned. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but they're floating off the coast, and I said, well, they're probably, he said, well, they're probably okay, nothing will happen. I said, nope, we got to go through it. And it was a big deal to go check those out. We found eventually a Boy Scout troop picked up a couple of them on the Carolina shore and so forth. But I think at that time, the easier way out was to say, well, they're out in the ocean, we're at sea, it's not going to make any difference. And it did cause a lot of trouble. And he got reduced in rank, reduced in rate, so on and so forth. So that was a hard decision to make, but it was the right decision to make.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the last question is concerning here in the county. Up on the north end, Sawmill Branch, that development out there, is there a possibility that there were graveyards and African-American graveyards plowed over up on that north end? Is there a possibility that that happened?
I don't know that answer to that specific question, but I know that Tackett's Mill, which is also up in that area, the last Revolutionary War location, that up off Route 1 at the northern end of the county, a lot of area was plowed in, and including setting up a cofferdam right over the top of Tackett's Mill. I'm saying, I don't know about the specific thing, but that was where people worked, and it was a busy area. And water now, once the pond gets filled up, they have a little cofferdam there and a little runway, and it drops the water right down on top of Tackett's Mill. So we pretty much ruined one of the only Revolutionary War sites that we really know about out there. So it's in that same area, and I know they plowed over, it's just clear plowed in the area, so anything could have happened, I would guess.
So do you feel they did their due diligence when they were clearing that land up there?
We looked into it. We did look into it with Al Hadid and a couple other people. What we found was the developer did a lot of damage out there, but I think they did it within the agreements they had back in the early 2000s when it was approved for them to go in there. So, I think they should have been more careful. It's happened more than once.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further questions from the dais? All right, thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
All right.
Chief of Staff, could you please bring them all back in real quick?
Thank you.
He's back there. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Could you get them all back in here, Mr. De Lorenzo? Or they split? Some of them split?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's the 4.
Okay, so for the ones
4
that
that
are
remained.
for the ones that are remaining, our next hurdle is the discussion of applicants on the 8th and the 8th of April, and that's at 6 p.m. And then the appointment date is on April 15th at 9 a.m. So that's our next step, council. Any questions?
No questions, but I just want to thank everybody who applied and came here today and shared your thoughts and just, being willing to put yourself out there. We really appreciate it, so thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of information. So last time we did do this, we had kind of a snafu. That's because we had to cancel a meeting where we were going to discuss the candidates and narrow it down. I think it was when maybe three of the council members had the flu or something like that. So I know council said they wanted to follow those things again. So last time it was at that workshop, you guys would narrow it down to 3, possibly 2. If that's the council's direction you want to do again, that's fine. Just want to make sure you guys.
So is everyone happy with that? On the 8th, we'll narrow it down to 3 candidates?
Good.
Sounds good, Mr. Mayor.
We're good? Okay. We're going to move on to public participation. So anybody that sat through those interviews, if you have anything, we do have to move on to our proclamations and our regular business meeting. But if anyone has any comments concerning the applicants please stand up now? What you got there, Mr. Kunis? I started to call you Klufus. Man, what a mistake that would have been. He must be talking about me. Yes, sir.
I'm Gary Kunis from C-Section. I'm also a COP for Sheriff Staley. We patrol the canals, we patrol the ICW, we see things, we record it, we give it to Barbara Grossman if there's a code enforcement situation. I had a claim of a grass cutter throwing a lot of grass in the canals, which is illegal state-wise and city-wise. Took it to Barbara. We had all the evidence, we had the videos, we had pictures, and she put it on the board for discussion and a vote on. It went there. We went through several beforehand. There was one incident before ours which said an elderly woman who was in the hospital had junk in her front yard. Apparently seeing it from the street is a violation. Granted, but she didn't know it was there, and she couldn't do anything about it, and they gave her a fine of $1,600. There was another individual, small businessman, had a trailer covered on his back porch. Could not see it from the street. They fined him $6,000. When my case came up, they sandbagged it. They didn't want to hear it. Barbara was shocked, Richie was shocked, the inspector, and this was all coordinated by Mr. Stengel. He should not be on the council at all, ever. With those attitudes and that background and that stuff, it's wrong. He knew that, so he had to contribute that somebody in that board had their lawn cut by the individual we were going after. And it was wrong. He should not be up there at all. Thank you.
Mr. Kunis, what was the name? Mr. who?
It was Mr. Stansel.
Stansel.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments concerning the last presentation of all the candidates? Seeing no one come forward, bring it back to the dais real quick. Any follow-ups?
No, Mr. Mayor. Good.
I would just like any public records associated with those code enforcement complaints and any board hearings regarding that matter, please.
Got anything, Councilman Gambaro?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna adjourn this meeting and we're gonna move into our next one. Let's give it 5 minutes. I can't even go outside and have a cigarette.
No, you
I
can't.
We'll adjourn for 5 minutes.